This is Royals in the Pros, our look at former Queens student athletes that are performing beyond the collegiate level. And today we talk to John Paige, who graduated in 2018, a former face-off specialist for the men's lacrosse program. Johnny Paige, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Hope the family is healthy. I have fond memories of games in which you won 14 of 15 face-offs. And that has landed you a career in Major League Lacrosse.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Appreciate, being able to come back and talk to you guys and kind of sharing my story, coming through Queens and going through the pros. And yeah, it was a great career, especially at Queens.
Well, you just recently were picked up by your second Major League Lacrosse team, the Chesapeake Bayhawks out of Annapolis, Maryland. But since you last played a game in 2017 and then graduated after 2018 season, you spent the 2017-18 season as a student assistant in your fifth year. You've now had a career in both coaching at the collegiate level and as a professional player. So let's talk a little bit about both. First, right after graduation in May of 2018, you went through a series of tryouts in Major League Lacrosse. You were signed by the Florida Launch. As someone coming out of Division II, granted a very tough region in Division II, but as somebody coming out of Division II, what sparked the idea, I'm going to go pursue professional lacrosse?
For me, it was kind of weird. I never thought I would, at the time, like after I graduated, I would play in the North-South game, Division II All-Star game, D1, D2, and at the time I was like, I might be able to play pro, but like it was kind of like a fleeting thought, like I didn't think like I had the ability to play at the pro level, especially seeing like all the big name superstars and such. And then kind of midway through 2018, I got a phone call from Eric Genova, the faceoff coach for Ohio. And he was like, I found you, you're on our supplemental draft board, and we're thinking about taking you in the supplemental draft. So we'll just be on standby. And as soon as like the supplemental draft happened and, they went on and ended up selecting other people, in the back of my mind after that phone call, I was like, okay, well, if somebody found me and I got a phone call and had the potential opportunity to get drafted, I'm like, well, I might have a chance to play pro. So then I just shot my shot and, put my name in for the player pool, registered for tryouts, and, flew down to Florida and, just did my thing and performed. And then that's when I got the call from, Mariano, and got the invite to go down for training camp.
Yeah. How many tryouts did you end up attending?
I did 2 rounds. So I did the first round in Florida to get my name out there. And once, the assistant coaches, Burdick and Coach Duncan, saw me play, that's when they suggested me to come out to Ohio or come out to Pennsylvania for the second round of tryouts, which was with like, I think Ohio as well, like a dual tryout. And
so there were a few teams looking at you when you were trying out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then after that tryout, Florida, Tom Mariano approached me and said, hey, like I'm going to sign you Monday morning and then bring you out for training camp. And then Monday morning comes around, get the phone call, and I'm going down to Florida for training camp, So
it's not just interesting being a Division II guy that attempts to play professionally, because you have to weigh how good is the talent level I'm competing against in Division II versus the jump in talent level I'll compete against professionally. But it's also an interesting decision specifically for your sport, lacrosse, because outside of the very few guys at the top, I think of the Paul Rabels, the Matt Danowskis of the world, right? Outside of those few guys, it isn't necessarily the revenue generator and a way to make a living. You have to balance it with other things like coaching. So
yeah.
was there that dynamic in your brain? Do I want to pursue professional lacrosse? Because how financially fruitful will it actually be for me? Is it a smart career decision?
It's really hard to balance everything out. I know, during that whole 2018 season, I had some conflicts, especially as a student assistant. And fortunately for me, Coach Kivlin, he was really, helpful in the fact of trying to cover for me and try and get somebody to like take my spot for games that I had to miss for, MLL events and just commitments in that regard. So I definitely could say, it was really hard trying to balance everything out in that aspect. But I think the MLL has done a great job in the last year or two of trying to push the season back through the summer, so it doesn't really conflict with guys who coach during the summertime, during the springtime, and it doesn't really conflict. And that way, guys can make it to training camps for games and really have the most minimal amount of conflict. But
And still
it's
make a
kind of
living.
hard. Yeah, without
Yeah.
a doubt, it's kind of hard to try to balance everything out. But a lot of the coaches are pretty aware of that, and they try to make the best of the situation to help you out. And that's a good thing about them playing on Friday through Sunday. It's kind of not really conflicting as much, for most people. So that's a benefit of the MLL for sure.
And you just touched on this briefly, but I do remember at the time in 2018, you were both a professional athlete and an assistant coach on the Queen's staff as you used your 5th year as a student assistant. So you were going back and forth between the two gigs, going down to Florida to practice and eventually playing games, and at the same time coaching your old former teammates at Queens.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of challenging. I'm not gonna lie. At first, when I got the call to suggested to come out for the second round of tryouts, I was I was really nervous to tell Coach Kivlin hey, I might have to miss a game. I know I put you in a tough spot, but I really want to do this. And he was like, yeah, no worries. I'll get you somebody to cover for you. And luckily, Dylan Casper was a strength coach there, and he had experience helping with the team. So he ended up covering for me twice. So God bless his soul for helping me out and
I
getting me
can't
out of the
imagine,
pinch.
though, that Coach Kivlin would have been upset that one of his former players and current assistant coaches would be playing professionally. That just seems like a pretty good recruiting tool, huh? Right.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
So you made the active roster. Did you get a chance to play in any games while you were with Florida? How did that work?
So it was funny. They had a couple face-off guys. They had Chris Mattis, and then they brought in um, a buddy of mine, Kevin Reisman. They both played, and then the third game in the season, I actually got my shot, to play. And then, truth be told, it was literally graduation weekend. So, I can't make this up. I literally I'm waking up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday, going to Queens, getting ready for graduation. Aunts, uncles, everybody's in town, and I booked a flight at 11 o'clock. So as soon as I walked across the stage, got my diploma, got a quick group picture with some of my friends, my parents drove me to the airport, and then I ended up flying down to Florida, and they flew down. And I was actually about to play, but then they decided that they were going to go a different route. So I was down there, practiced with the guys, and basically was just down there for the game, sat on the sideline. But for the most part, I almost got to play that season with Florida, but it was just a great opportunity to be able to experience that and get down there and at
Yeah.
least be considered a play.
Yeah. So you've spent the time since as an assistant coach for 1 year during the 2018-2019 season with Mount St. Mary's. Your current coaching gig during this past season, 2019-2020, is with Lewis. But after a little brief time off, seems like a season there, what made you pursue professional lacrosse again that you'd be picked up by the Chesapeake Bayhawks just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, so it's weird because after my short stint with Florida, I ended up getting picked up with Chesapeake later that season, and I was on the practice
Okay.
squad, and I was doing pretty well, and one of our guys ended up getting hurt, and I ended up getting the start for the MLL semifinal game. And looking back, that was not my best performance. That's probably out of my whole career, I was probably the worst performance I've ever had. And thinking back to that, you know, I thought to myself my career was going to be done after that, because how the pros go. It's you have one bad game, and
Yeah,
especially at
for
the
sure.
high level, especially MLB or NBA, it's like if you have one bad game, you know, you might get a scratch and you might get bumped down, or you might be looking outside and in. And for me, I felt after that game, I felt like it was over. But then, I took some time off to kind of rest a little bit. And that time off, I ended up in the 18-19 year, I ended up getting picked up by the Ohio Machine, which is no longer around no more. I got picked up through free agency. And then 3 weeks later, the season, or the MLL, ended up making a news saying that they were closing down operations in Florida, Ohio, and then kind of putting the brakes on Charlotte for right now. I think they're on hiatus until 21.
Yeah.
So next summer they're returning. So, it's been a weird process going from that and then getting picked up again, and then the MLL kind of closes down operations for those teams, and then I'm basically standing on the outside looking in, and I'm trying to, reach out to coaches, be like, hey, like if you need somebody, I'll be around, and I think for me, a lot of that was that one game I had, I think was still lingering in some coaches' heads. And so that kind of hurt me in the sense of trying to get picked up. And, it's kind of hard trying to tell myself, like, am I going to play? Like, should I play again? Like, do I still have a chance? And is it possible for me? And then, this year while I was at Lewis, I did a lot of reflecting. I'm like, I'm going to go for it. I can't not play.
Yeah.
I'm too competitive as a person. And, I felt like I was missing a lot of my life, especially that year off from playing. So I was like, I'm just going to shoot my shot and go again. And, here we are. Got another shot to
Did you have
prove
to
myself
try
for
out?
Chesapeake.
Did you have to try out for Chesapeake or send them tapes? How did that work?
I just texted Coach Mariano, the head coach, and I was like, "Hey, Coach, like I'm gonna be living in Maryland recruiting. Like, if you need a practice squad guy, like I'm here for you. Like, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Like, I'll give you my best performance I can. I'll give you like the 2017, 2018 me again, if you'd have me." And he texted me like a week ago, and he was like, "Hey, you want to play this summer?" And I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah, I want to play this summer."
It's funny. It's almost like the connections to play professionally in Major League Lacrosse, and I found this with a few of the other sports as well in doing these interviews, that they're not that much different than the connections that are made in the business world or the coaching world or the broadcast world or any other business. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, especially with like the MLL, a lot of the coaches like were former coaches or are current coaches, in the collegiate level. So it's like
Mhm.
everyone knows everyone. So luckily for me, you know, the old head coach Fritz knew Mariano, and I knew, and then obviously Coach Panos knew Burdick, who's
Mhm.
now the assistant coach for Chesapeake. So it's kind of crazy to think that like everyone just knows everyone in that whole
Yeah.
circuit.
Yeah. So you did try to play since we last heard of you playing, having signed that first year, your rookie professional season back in 2018. You attempted to play 2019, just restructuring in the MLL complicated things, and then ultimately 2020 you get a chance again. Correct.
Yep.
Okay. What's it like when a team dissolves? You're left with nothing to do, I guess, right?
Man,
That's got to be the most uncomfortable feeling as an athlete.
it was so tough. It was really tough to go through that. I'm not gonna lie. You know, as soon as I got word, like it was really surreal because Coach Davis or sent out like we got the news from it, right? And
Mhm.
Coach Davis texts the team, and then we do like a group conference call, and then he just kind of tells us what's going to happen. Like, hopefully, we could try salvage this. Hopefully, somebody will buy the Ha machine and get ownership of them, and we could play this summer. But I don't know. And he was kind of like telling us that, giving us the whole rundown of how everything's going to break out and stuff. And Um, Basically, the dissolved teams were going to get this like redrafted, I guess. Each
Hmm.
team in the
Yeah.
league that was still around is going to redraft the team's players, like 3 or 4 picks from each. So, I mean, when I got the phone call and I found out that they got cut, like I was heartbroken, man. Like I was like, I had a bit in my mindset. I'm like, I had a terrible game in, the 18 summer, and then now like I finally get a chance to like play to make up for it, and then it got taken away, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get back into this, and luckily my parents were around to help me keep
Yeah.
stay together, but it was pretty tough, and I couldn't believe that that was a thing.
Yeah. So now your league is on hold because of the pandemic. The whole sports world is on hold. It's interesting looking at the way the scope of professional lacrosse is working right now because there's always been the indoor league, the National Lacrosse League. Um, they don't get as much attention, but yet the indoor league seems to be going strong and has been for many, many years. And MLL was big a few years ago and still is big, but now the Premier Lacrosse League is stepping into the foray. That's Paul Rabel's league, I
Mm.
understand. Where do you think the structuring in professional lacrosse is going to go? Will the Premier Lacrosse League, with its name recognition and its TV deal, is that something that's going to end up taking the position of prominence in the sport? And is that something that maybe you'd, if you could prove yourself in the MLL, have a shot at one day? How do you process it as somebody who's in the mix right now in the world of professional lacrosse, competing and watching your business change left and right?
It's been kind of interesting seeing how that all played out. Like, I know when the PLL made that announcement that they were coming about, like people, all the coaches, everybody was so skeptical about it. But I think it's great to have that PLL, MLL, and then like the National Lacrosse League. I think it's good to have multiple levels of the professional level.
Mm,
With the PLL being new, it's kind of giving that wow factor, right? So it's kind of like the new up and
yeah.
coming league. So it's kind of like the new shiny toy everyone wants to get a hold of. And then the MLL kind of adds more of like the sentimental value of lacrosse, pro lacrosse, I would say, because of it's been existent in existence since the 90s, and like you've had some of the most legendary players play, like the Gate brothers, like you've had Mark Millen, Mikey Powell, Casey Powell. Like there's like so many people
Huh.
that like I know people around my age group know about, like those pro guys who basically started and basically built the brand of pro lacrosse to what it is now. And
Mhm.
then I think the PLL kind of just capitalized more on like the marketing and the TV stuff in regards to the pro side of things, like the business side of it. But I think both have its place, and I think they're both great for the sport in the sense of sentimental, and then also kind of like the new up and coming brand, I guess.
Hey, I can tell you, growing up on Long Island, the Long Island Lizards were a thing. People went to those games.
Yeah, I know,
That was a
right?
thing. They played at the name of that park right behind the Nassau Coliseum there. I forget. It's been a while since I've been up there, but the Long Island Lizards, they were a thing.
Yeah,
So
they've
how do
had some
you?
great players there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Um, how do you handle the quarantine world right now? I know you. You love to stay in the gym, live in the gym, hours at a time, if not multiple trips during the day to the gym. Uh, I mean, how do you handle the world of quarantine?
Oh man, at first it was like I was going crazy. Like I'm gonna be honest, I was
Yeah.
going stir crazy. But luckily for me, one of my family friends right down the road, since we're all kind of staying to ourselves, like they let me have access to their home gym.
Hmm.
Like fortunate enough, like I know some other guys aren't as fortunate, but I have access to a squat rack, bench, all that, and I still could get my workouts in and kind of stay on top of my conditioning. But it's been kind of hard to get out to fields because they're all closed down and whatnot. But I've been kind of going out to my front yard, just doing some stuff I can possibly do with face off stuff. And then
Mm.
been doing a lot of yoga lately.
Yoga.
Trying to trying to stretch out more, and I think that was one of my big issues. Was like, I was hitting the weights a lot, but there's more aspects to my physical fitness that I need to kind of put more attention to, and kind of helped me be a healthier version of myself, because I know I was struggling with some back issues a year ago, but now I'm probably in the best shape and probably feeling the most healthiest now. So
Yeah. So has any league officials or team executives given you any idea of what a timetable might be, and if there will be a 2020 season in Major League Lacrosse or no?
I think they're still trying to make a push for the season.
No.
With seeing everything, from my personal opinion, from seeing how all the other pro leagues have kind of been making moves towards having a season, like I don't doubt in my mind that the MLL could have a season, but I don't know the extent or how long it's going to be. It might be like the season's cut in half, and it's basically you're
Mm,
playing 7 games or something like that. I don't
yeah.
really know. Um, but the Mariano let me know, and I've been hearing that maybe July is probably the rough estimate of
Yeah.
when things will get back. I know the Bayhawks made an announcement that hopefully July. So
Well, we'll be looking for you. The Queen's World to be pulling for you. Uh, I know
appreciate it.
you're one of those Royals and the pros that makes the Queen's World proud. So we're glad you're safe and healthy. Hope the family stays safe and healthy and everyone around you. And thanks for taking a few minutes. John Paige graduated from 2018 from the men's lacrosse program, and he plays in Major League Lacrosse. Thank you, Johnny.
Yep. Thanks, Phil.